Hello, beautiful people. How are you guys doing today? I am feeling chipper. I've got energy, up the wazoo. I am ready to go, and I'm ready to talk. So let's talk. I thought today I would discuss FOSS and the future of video games, because realistically, video games as we know them are dead. They've been dead for a while now, and it's finally time for us to admit that, at least in the West, there is no real hope for any sort of mainstream video games or any sort of enjoyable media coming out of our Western development. It sucks, it is what it is. The next few episodes, actually, I'm going to cover the death of video games and what I think caused them. It's going to be a little mini-series. Spoilers, it handles an event titled GG. So you know it's going to be good if the initials equate to GG. Those of you in the know may have already guessed, but that is what's coming next. But today we're going to talk about what I feel like could be the future of video games, and that's FOSS video games. In case you don't know, FOSS, free, open source, yada yada. So why do I feel like that might be the future of video games, and in the West at least, as pursuant to enjoyable media or those in the know? So, if you've played video games in the West any time in the past decade, you might have noticed that you're having more fun with indie-developed titles, with private servers, with non-official products not infested by the woke mind virus, basically. I think that sentiment is almost universal amongst gamers. Like, there's a reason why people these days play Minecraft more than virtually anything else in modern day. And it's not just because they're little kids. These are actually probably mostly grown adults playing this, just to be clear here. Although there's definitely some proportion of the youngsters that are delving into the ancient art of clicking on blocks. The reason why, it's because modern video games have failed. Sure, there's some contingent of Zoomers that are going to play their FPSs or their Battle Royales or their multiplayer user battle arena thingies or whatever, their MOBAs. And if we look at the history of a lot of these titles, they all originate from fan-made recreations. Like, all MOBAs can be traced back to Dota, a Warcraft 3 mod in its inception. FPSs, I think the most popular FPS is still Counter-Strike, a mod for Half-Life, So, if we just extend this trend outwards, I think, at least in development is for sure the present of video games. I don't really think, as far as AAA titles in the West go, there's really any sort of reason to be playing anything from a mainstream publisher. I just can't. And if you really do want to, just pirate it. Spoilers, just steal it. But if we're looking at things from current year and things that are decent or playable, it's pretty much exclusively just stuff from indie-developed studios, and I don't consider Baldur's Gate 3 playable. At least not if you have an IQ above room temperature. If you're looking for a bad pornography game, there's plenty of better porn games for you to play than that D&D ripoff garbage. Sorry, not sorry. Story's trash, game is trash, mechanics are trash. Worse than Neverwinter Nights. Haven't even played it, don't care to. You can tell just by looking at something usually when it's not going to be ideal. I don't really care what's popular or pushed by the media. How many people these days are playing Diablo 4, or what was pushed before that? Like, what sort of FOMO garbage are people trying to feed into to get, gullible Twitch viewers into their video game? Who cares? Anyways, but the actual games gamers are playing, and when I talk about gamers, I mean people that actually enjoy playing video games, not FOMO bandwipers that, log on for 30 minutes and then log off, back to beating the wife or whatever they do in their spare time. I'm talking about people that actually sit down and play video games. And most of those people are involved in their own mini communities and their own indie projects, moving towards smaller things away from the mainstream. And so I was thinking about where this all leads, and I can't help but remember all of these FOSS games and all of these, things that came of yore, and how, as technology improves, as AI improves, being able to design your own video games is going to be easier and easier. And that means the profit incentive probably is going to go away for a lot of these things. The game developer might just be another job AI kills. This might be wishful thinking, this might be copium because video games have been destroyed by something. I'll get into what next. But I hope, basically, what I want to say is, if the future of video games is going to be looking good, it's going to involve necessarily the destruction of all major, AAA gaming in the West. And that happens basically through video games either going fully indie or going full FOSS. Right now, I think, most serious gamers are at least involved in the indie scene for their video games in one way or another. Private servers, small developers off Steam or whatever, or just FOSS implementations of games or like free games, right? And those free games are not obviously published by AAA titles because, yikes. And so because we're moving away from an industry that is built entirely upon sort of these engagement metrics, these corporate means for how to increase, something so it looks good to the CEO, instead of what's actually good for the game. As we move towards games being about gamers again, games appealing to white guys again, which is the primary gaming audience, and why games, although their profits are up, just because of the cost of everything, the actual amount of games and gamers, I think, is going to decrease steadily until we move towards an indie market. I think we hit the apex of gaming at around the early 2000s, late 2000s-ish, and now we've been on a steady decline and will continue to decline as it goes more and more mainstream. And sure, there will always be people shoveling garbage into their mouth. There's still people that watch the Hollywood garbage in this day and age. Like, Barbie is one of the most popular films ever, even though it's purely just misandrous, like jilling off trap. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's absolute garbage. I haven't watched it, obviously, but just reading about it, I know. Like, in today's modern age, your time is so valuable with so many different things competing for it that you really can't be asked to give things a try, honestly. Like, I'm done with this whole metagame of giving things a try before criticizing them. Like, that's simply ridiculous. If you need to try something that disagrees with you politically to verify if it's good or bad, you don't understand your politics. Much like in modern day, religious context, you can just simply assume things, and life's just a lot simpler if you do just randomly assume things. It's also a lot better and a lot more efficient. There's not going to be any diamonds in the rough that comes out of the woke agenda. Sorry. But anyways, back on point. So what I envision for a future of video games that's going to be decent is one where most developers are using some sort of AI tool, or there's an AI generated game engines. Think Unity, but with something that actually does all the coding for you, all the assets, all of that, and it's all free and open source. And then it's very difficult to monetize something like that, and maybe it's released with unmonetizable licenses, and then everyone just can share and improve on that product globally. And then think about it for a second. The highest merit, or the highest the best product might raise to the top then, instead of the one pushed by some woke social justice cretins. That's the best possible thing that could happen. It would mirror basically the Japanese manga market in the way that, people with their time and money rate things, and then the best rises to the top, the worst does not. And then you have sort of this popularity matrix. And so by that metric, at least, you can appeal to the vast majority of people. And then if the West, if the vast majority of people want this social justice garbage to rise to the top, well then, it's doomed and there's nothing we can do. But realistically, I don't think that's the case. Realistically, I see what happens when, you have true gamers about and what actually are people playing. If you look at what people play, it's mostly just mods of ancient stuff, just FOSS implementations. A lot of things that have just a Valve brand around it, right? And yeah, there's obviously some AAA garbage in there that FOMOs for a month and then no one ever touches it. See Diablo 4. Is anyone seriously still playing that even though the season came out? I hope not, for their sake. My god, dudes. Some people. But it is what it is, right? And so there is another solution too to go to the east, but I've said that a million times before. But I'm hoping at least video game trends towards a free and open source type of ordeal where we can all share and grow as far as gaming goes, because our institutions have been ruined, have been infiltrated, and there's no recovering from that, realistically. You either go indie or go all alone, or your entire civilization is doomed. And our civilization might be just doomed that might be the end of it, and that might be everything, and there might not be much else to say about it. In which case, so be it, That's fine. We had a good run. Have your memories in a place where you can access them easily. Don't let people take them over, Have all the old anime you like to watch, have all your old video games and all the old mods for them and everything that you hold dear, just because when S hits the fan, there might not be a way for you to play them. And if they're old, if they're before the time when everything was corrupted, they can run on a literal potato. So, solar panels and a laptop should be good enough to get you through, hopefully, the S hitting the fan in the near future. And as far as backup goes, make sure you back up everything the way you would back up any sort of important data with a 3-2-1 backup plan. 3 copies of your data on 2 separate media with 1 offsite backup just in case, just so Global Homo can't steal anything from you. And with that, I leave you with that. Hopefully you can use that or start thinking about your, S hits the fan backup supply for video games and where you're going in the future of video games. Maybe it turns out good. I'm not hoping though. Here we go.